things like that. So I think that's what it really comes down to, is like CrossFit just needs to take control over the narrative by hiring people, and again, yes, paying money, because you are building your brand, CrossFit. Like, you need to tell the story of CrossFit. If you don't tell the story of CrossFit, somebody else will do it, and they may do it a disservice. So I think that's where things could get a little gray and kind of have. Rant over.
And he will now get off of his soapbox after he earned 5 points for that answer. I like those ideas, Tim. Nikki, what are your thoughts here, especially kind of being in the thick of it?
You're making me go last. Oh my God. I could talk about this for like an hour.
Okay, how much time do we got, guys?
Okay, let me try to organize my thoughts. I think I understand what everybody is saying, and nobody inherently has bad ideas except for James, who said don't hire a media team. You have to hire a media team again, and I think it should be bigger than it was back in the glory days, but take that with a grain of salt because you know where I'm coming from on this. At the end of the day, I understand controlling the narrative, and I fully agree with that. I understand having contracted partners to help out with very specific pieces of content if you can't have a massive internal team. But without a solid internal team, who is going to direct those contractors? Who is going to take the raw footage in and then do post-production on all of it? Who is going to develop a cohesive strategy across the board so that we even know who to hire for what content, for where? Media in general is a massive word, and it means so much more than a guy or a gal with a camera. And without an internal team really connecting what the needs are from a marketing and media perspective to the rest of the organization and all of its different silos, there will be absolute chaos, and there will be only people covering the elites, and there will be a complete lack of storytelling on any other front. I think CrossFit is doing so much now to expand the competition landscape, to have all these extra events where we are now focusing solely on one division over another, and without hiring internal people who can really work full time, 40 hours, maybe even 60 hours a week on all of this cohesive media and marketing, that we're not going to be able to do the due diligence that we need to not only highlight each and every individual division on a competition basis, but also to go out and tell the inspirational stories of the people and the affiliates and the people finding CrossFit for the first time. I just think it's really idealistic to be like, well, let's just hire people around the world to do the things in their own boxes. But you need a team of people and a team of brains behind all of that work in order to actually make it something that CrossFit can leverage and use for the business. Otherwise, it just won't work. But I also think, and Lauren, you can appreciate this too, like as a former journalist, you can't have a monopoly on these stories. You need the competition out there in order to continue to push CrossFit to be better. But from Tim's argument, I truly agree that CrossFit has to own the narrative, and from Aaliyah's argument, so that people trust them. Because if the information and if the greatest stories are coming from other storytellers, then we have nothing to fall back on as an organization, you know?
And also, it's like,
do you have anything to say to that? Sorry, James.
No, I'm a big Nikki fan. I like the way she frames things. And part of me is like, hey, if I was opening a rec for a role in CrossFit Media, like, hey, I know where I would send a resume request.
I'm very expensive. They can't afford me.
Well, there you go. So then lower your standards.
But I do love what James said about like all these wonderful sports content houses. Like, it does make sense to sort of have resources in other places, but who is going to explain to those people what a thruster is? It's not the CMO. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be internal people who are, and anyone who's worked on the broadcasting time, I'm sure Sean is like shaking his fist at the screen right now from the back. You know, anyone can explain that even when we outsource stuff from a broadcast perspective to like local people who are boots on the ground at the competitions that we develop around the world, there are broadcast employees who are out there educating the people on, you got to shoot this, and this is what a toaster bar looks like, and don't shoot them from this angle, you're going to shoot them from this angle, you're going to get like a whole bunch of crotch in the shot. Like, there's all sorts of like really specific things.
That's what the people want, Nikki.
What the people want. Give them what they want to see.
What the internet wants always isn't the best.
There's just so much specific CrossFit information that we need to be able to manipulate internally in order to get like the external limbs of all of our partners and whatever actually working for our benefit.
Yeah.
Core to extremity, James.
Oh, just dropped the level 1 on James.
I love
Hey,
it.
that means it's
King
full
of-
circle. That's a good sign, man. That's a good sign.
King of the Air Squad over here just got the level 1 manual dropped on him.
Hey, James did my level 1 like 12 years ago. So just saying,
See?
go way
Also,
back.
now it's-
Austin Maliolo did mine, so a close
The
compatriot.
student has become the master.
Yeah, I think my all of this says to me is I think there's a lot of frustration with CrossFit's seeming inability to just grasp how important media is, and I think we've had a couple different private owners and things like that kind of floating in over the last couple of years, and it just seems like nobody seems to understand that we are in 2023 and how important the value of brand building is, and how important your media presence is. It seems like they don't get it, and I don't understand why. And I guess that's where my biggest frustration comes back to is they just don't. Everybody here, everybody in the comments section, everybody on Instagram, which is basically most of humanity at this point, understands how important, your presence is on social media and the messaging that you're putting out to people, but CrossFit doesn't. And most companies understand that. I mean, companies are catching flack left, right, and center for this ad or that ad or whatever. It's everybody understands how important it is to have a proper message for your target audience. But CrossFit just doesn't seem to get it. And I guess that's my biggest, I just have questions. I just wonder, why don't you see this as an investment in the long-term value and vision of this company? Having a better media presence where people understand your brand better. Yeah, you're not going to see dollars and cents returns on it tomorrow or next year, but the long-term proposition value of your company relies on this. That's what CrossFit is. It's a brand, it's a service. Tell the damn story.
Yeah. I agree fully. I just think if you're really why isn't it happening? I think the answer is probably that the price tag to do it right is probably just always going to be bigger than what you expect from a brand level, for a large organization or for a media or marketing effort that has multiple different facets. So I think people on paper are we need this, it's important, and then they see the price and they're like, but can we cut the budget? Please.
Oh no, 100%. And especially with once private equity gets involved, again, long-term brand building things are definitely not at the forefront. The vision doesn't go past 5 years because they're going to be gone in 5 years. So they don't give a shit if you're going to spend X millions this year to build the long-term health of your brand because they're going to be gone and they don't care. And again, this isn't a knock on private equity or CrossFit or anybody. I think it's just the reality of I know that's the answer to my question probably. If I were to ask it of somebody, that's probably the answer I'm going to get is that the people who pull the purse strings don't see the value in it in their time frame. But again, I think at the end of the day, it's still just frustrating.
Yeah. Agreed.
I mean, I think there's still a way to do it without having to bring in a